Spoilers for all versions of Revolutionary Girl Utena. Content warning, the use of queer as a reclaimed term. If you cannot break the egg shell, a chick will die without being born. We are the chick, the world is our egg. If we don't crack the world's shell, we will die without being born. Smash the world's shell for the revolution of the world. But what does it mean to bring revolution to the world? Is it enough to challenge the patriarchal systems that trap women in either the role of a princess or witch and become something else? Or is it to reject those systems completely? And can you truly revolutionize the world if you are still stuck in the system that you were once trapped in? Well, Utena Tenjou does challenge the patriarchal system that forces women to be princesses by being a prince herself. She is still trapped in Akio's world with Anthy because of her view on princesses. Returning to Toga's line, Utena cannot break free of Akio's time loop and control, even when he's dead. Therefore, she will die without being born. By being a prince, Utena conforms to Akio's worldview of princes and princesses. For the purpose of this analysis, I'm following my timeline I made it in another video. That video is linked in the description for any who want to watch. But for a quick summary, the anime is first in the time loop, Utena is a part of. The manga is the second, and Adolescence of Utena is the final, followed by the epilogue that occurs after the time loop is broken. This timeline sets up a time loop with a bad ending where Utena dies by getting hit with swords filled with humanity's hate instead of Anthy. The next ending is bittersweet, where Utena absorbs Akio and becomes a goddess like Anthy, but the two are separated in the end. In Adolescence of Utena, Anthy and Utena are reunited and leave the time loop, providing a final, good ending. These three different endings correlate to Anthy and Utena's growth throughout the franchise. Utena begins the series as a tomboy who wants to be a prince. The story refers to her as a princess who's so impressed by her prince that she wishes to become like him. But was that really such a good idea? Spoiler alert, no, it wasn't a good idea. And not for the reason you might think. Being a prince, while in theory emulates a queer experience, Utena being a prince takes her queer relationship and makes them heteronormative. By Utena wishing to become a prince, it puts Anthy into the role of a princess, turning their queer relationship into a heteronormative one. This is addressed in Utena's first duel with Toga, when Utena has to address how she's making Anthy into this damsel in distress to be a prince. While it is addressed early in the overall plot, it is never truly resolved until Adolescence of Utena. The duel with Toga does not resolve Utena's uncertainty about being a chivalrous prince and a woman. In the anime series, Utena fails in the end to cause a revolution because she can't be a prince. But I'd like to say she lost because she was one. For some context, the majority of the B-Papas group that made Revolutionary Girl Utena worked on Sailor Moon, specifically the season where Haruka and Michiru are introduced. And while there is a quote from the group about how they tried to kill Tuxedo Mask and could not, and that Utena is where Tuxedo Mask could be killed, I can't seem to find the quote anywhere when I look it up. If you can find a source for that quote, I'd love to read the context that was put into. But they overall found the show limiting, and Utena was where the limits could be broken. This does make sense in retrospect. As someone who read the Sailor Moon manga to begin with and didn't grow up on the 90s show, I was appalled to see Haruka's representation in the anime where she is very much butch and fits into the butch stereotype, while in the manga she was more feminine and androgynous, and what didn't really fit into a femme or butch role. It was kind of obvious that the 90s anime tried to put Haruka and Michiru into a heteronormative box, where Haruka was clearly meant to be the man in the relationship. And with this context in mind, the idea of Utena's loss in the anime being due to her role that in Akio's world is not only sexist, but puts her in the position of the man in her relationship with Anthy, it's clear why she would lose because of this. She's playing by Akio's rules, and Akio isn't going to let her win. Akio's worldview still exists even when he is killed in the manga. Even though Utena defeats Akio and he's considered dead in Anthy's world, his influence is still present. This is why in the manga version of Adolescence of Utena, the villain is not Shiori, it is the ghost of Dios and Akio who's trying to prevent Anthy and Utena from leaving, as soon as Utena states that it's too toxic for them to stay, when Anthy tries to make her a prince. Akio's influence, the labels that Akio applied to Anthy still exist, and Anthy, searching for Utena, wants her to be a prince, her prince. But in order to be happy, they have to both destroy Akio and stop living in his world. In Akio's worldview, princes are chivalrous men and princesses are women who need to be saved by those princes. If a woman cannot be a prince, she's declared a witch, which is what happens to Anthy in the past, where she can't be Dios's princess because they are related, so she becomes a witch to the rest of the world, a girl who refused to fit into the standards. Now trapped in this world, Anthy believes that she has to have a prince to survive. We see this in Adolescence of Utena, where the world is literally destroying itself because it needs a prince. And it is only when Utena realizes how toxic that mentality is in Adolescence of Utena that her and Anthy can finally escape and be together. The manga, while it is a happy ending in some extent, Utena does become a prince and save Anthy from Akio. They are separated at the end. They can't be together as long as Utena is a prince, because putting a queer relationship in the roles of prince and princess denies the inherent queerness of that relationship. When Utena and Anthy go to the outside, they decide to leave their roles behind. This is why Anthy drives the car in the movie, giving her a more masculine trait, even though she's the one who fulfills the more feminine role in general, being the princess in the relationship. This is where it starts to blur the lines between masculine and feminine, making it harder to justify putting the heteronormative label of prince and princess on this queer relationship. This is why in the movie it ends with their costumes being torn. The costumes are symbolic of their roles, where Utena wears a boy's uniform because she is a prince, and Anthy wears a big dress because she is the princess. Without those costumes, the relationship is no longer prince and princess. It is just Anthy and Utena. This is the true revolution, realizing that they cannot be happy together with the toxic prince and prince mentality. In order to have a true victory, Anthy and Utena cannot be a prince and princess. They just have to be two women. In order to break the world's shell, they have to defy the roles that they have been given throughout their entire time together. If they cannot do this, they will die before they can live. So this is my take on Anthy and Utena's roles as a prince and princess. This was actually first an essay from my college literature classes. While this is a more thematic theory, not really talking about the canon or even technically like character development, I'd still love to see your opinions on this topic. Thank you for watching. This has been Sally from Nerdy Girl Productions. I appreciate your existence. Go out and break the world's shell.